presents Monica Pearson, One-on-One.
February is the month of love and Black history, and tonight we're talking love and marriage with three couples who have made Black history. It's time to go one-on-one with Atlanta power couples. Our first couple lives in the spotlight. People watch their relationship go from dating to marriage, babies, and businesses on the reality TV show Real Housewives of Atlanta. When Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker met, he was a production manager, and she was a member of the R&B group Escape, the first Black woman to win the ASCAP Songwriter of the Year Award, and a Grammy Award winner for the song Scrubs.
I met him on the Real Housewives trip years ago when we went to Africa. We went to South Africa for a trip. And it's a friend of ours who was a producer on the show. She was a friend of mine, and she was like, I know somebody who wants to take you on a date. And I was like, ooh. And she was like, Todd. But that was like the third time I had heard somebody mention his name in that week. So I was like, I'm gonna find out who this Todd is. So I saw him, and the first day I saw him, he just walked past me and didn't say anything. So I was like,
I was being professional, I was at work.
So then they sent him to come talk to me about something, like I wasn't gonna be able to do something that all the rest of the girls was able to do, and they felt like I was gonna be upset about it. So they sent him to have a conversation with me, and we ended up talking, and we just clicked, and we never stopped talking. That whole day, it was the last day of the trip. It ended up also being his birthday, which was August 4th is his birthday. And we just talked all night long. And then I was like falling asleep, and he kissed me. And I was like, oh.
Sometimes you gotta let those sparks fly. You know, I think the conversation went a little too long, so I had to, bam.
But I wasn't used to that because, you know, I guess like, I don't know, I don't want to say people are intimidated. I don't want to say that because, you know, women say that a lot of times if they're successful, they want to say, oh, he's intimidated. I don't like to say that. But, you know, I never really got that a lot, just put it that way. So when he did that, I was like, oh, okay, well, clearly he's not intimidated, as they say. And from there, we just kept in contact when we came back to Atlanta. We kept communicating, hanging out, and I never got bored with him. Because I used to get easily bored. Like, I would talk to somebody for about a few months, and then I was like, okay, I'm over it. But I never got bored with him. Still now, I can talk to him all day, all night, and never get bored.
Aww.
Not too bad.
I love he said it. Not too bad.
And he motivates me, like seriously. Like in just life period, you know, I think a lot of times when you have an idea or different things, you're gonna be around so many people that are like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work, or ooh girl, that sounds like that's just a lie. You know how you get a lot of people like that around you? And he's never like that. He's always like, oh, well, let's figure it out. You can just do this, do that, and we can make it happen. And he will help figure out how to make the dream or the idea a reality. Like, he'll put in the whole plan. Like, he'll say, okay, all you have to do is da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, oh, okay, you just made it sound easy. Let's do it.
They dated for almost 2 years, married April 4th, 2014, and added 2 more children to the family. Both had a daughter before their marriage. They also started the Burruss Tucker Restaurant Group. So we're here at the Old Lady Gang Restaurant.
Yeah.
This was your idea.
It was. Thank you very much. I'll take all the credit. It was just something that came natural. Like, we would have Sunday dinners at our family's house every weekend. I'm from New York. I've never had Sunday dinner like that before I came to the South. It was like Thanksgiving every weekend. I was like, is this really how you people eat down here? Yeah. I was like, but this is something great. I was like, we should share this with the world, and that's where the restaurant idea came.
But I understand at first, the old ladies of the group, meaning your mom, Joyce, and your 2 aunties, Bertha and Nora, were kind of like, I don't know about this.
Well, for multiple reasons. For one, they did not like the name. But Bertha hated the name. She's like, we ain't no gang. Why they keep calling us a gang? And it was just funny because a friend of mine had started calling them the old lady gang because, you know, they stick together. So if one is mad at you, then all 3 is gonna be mad. So they're like a little gang, you know? but old ladies. And so we were like, I said it would be the perfect name for the restaurant. And they in turn were like, I don't know about this restaurant, and we don't know about that name either.
And they didn't know about you.
Yeah, they really didn't know about me. But you know, I've kind of stood the test of time, and I've showed my value, you know. And I understood it in the beginning. It was a little tough the way they went at me, but I understood they were being protective of her. Look at us now.
You've been married 8 years now.
8 years.
Yes.
And look at all you have produced in addition to 2 babies.
Yeah.
Yes. We have done a lot together as a team. I always say we're a couple, but we're a team. We have so many ideas, you know, just like most people, but we push each other to go after it. So
She don't push me on all ideas. Because I come up with an idea every day. And she's like, all right, that's enough ideas. Calm your brain, no more ideas.
So whose idea was it for what I call the nighttime candy, candy coated?
Oh, bedroom candy.
Yes, bedroom candy.
Well, that actually was before. That was before I got with Todd. That was something that I actually sat down with my mom and decided to do. Yes, I know
Your mom?
It sounds crazy, but I had been doing my online talk show at the time. It was Candy Coated Nights, where we talk about relationships and sex and all that stuff. And I was like, what would be a good product to go along with this? And I saw, I think it was like somebody else that was like well-known, a doctor though, who had their own products. So I was like, you know what? I got my own products. Why not? You know, I mean, I'm a woman. I represent the brand, the people who would use it. So I decided to do it, and I was thinking about it. When I was thinking about it, I sat down with my mom and I was like, what do you think? And I talked about names with my mom, and she was like, yeah, you should do it, and that should be the name. And she pushed me.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So, would you let your older daughters, 25 and 19, how did you explain this to them?
Well, I talk freely about everything to my daughter Riley and to Kayla, because obviously most of our lives are on television. Right. So Riley told me a long time ago, when she was only like 6, that she didn't think it was fair that I didn't talk to her about things that would be on TV, because her friends watched the show. And she didn't feel like it was cool that they could say things to her that she didn't know and she couldn't have a response.
How adult.
Right, she's very mature for her age. So now she's 19, but so I decided a long time ago that I would always sit down, have real conversations, tell her, hey, this is a business, this is how this works, you know, as far as financially. And basically, the better off financially we are, the better off it is for you, because she likes to spend all the money. And she understood.
So what was your reaction to this? You all weren't married at the time, but when you got married, I looked at the pictures where you're sprawled out in the beautiful black lace.
I don't know. I think I'm a confident guy. I think sexuality is what it is, and I don't know. I just felt that she was being free and open, and I think that's what's needed in the world. I'm like, everything is so taboo, and don't do that and don't do this, and I just thought, she's being a leader. She's in the forefront of it. Do your thing. I'm right here to support you.
A lot of people don't understand. And what's so funny about it is, it's like a long time ago, I decided to start having these conversations as far as like doing the Candy Coated Night show and, you know, making these products, because I saw a survey, and I think like Essence magazine a long time ago, that a majority of women have never experienced an actual orgasm. Yes. So it's very important that we as women are able to talk to each other, tell them, hey, this, you know, don't be afraid to know your own body. You know, it's a part of sexual health is sexual wellness. You know, it means health and wellness. It goes together, you know what I mean? And so it's very important. And I think a lot of people just look at, oh my God, or whatever.
Yeah,
but then there's a lot of people who really gravitate towards, and it's like, hey, I love, you know, being confident in who I am and taking charge in the bedroom.
Juggling multiple reality TV shows and businesses doesn't leave much time for love. Coming up, how Kandi and Todd keep the romance alive. So how do you two keep the romance in your marriage? Because you're doing how many shows?
Currently, right now, 4. We have The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Kandi and the Gang, which we're on together, The Chi, which I filmed back and forth in Chicago, and then also we're about to start filming the Escape reality show. My singing group that I've been in my whole life almost, Escape, and the group SWV, we're coming together to do a reality show.
And then you are doing...
Dun, 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 dun. Well, I was on our show, and I was the exec producer on that as well. And then I have a show on BET called The Encore, which I'm executive producer on as well.
You've got all this going on, seriously.
Yeah.
Families, couples are going to be looking at this going and say, okay, how do you keep the spark? What do you all do to make sure that you two are connected?
Well, this year I made it a conscious effort to start doing things every month for just he and I, right? So, I started planning little trips here and there where it's like, say for instance, just out of the blue, I saw, tickets online for Bruno Mars in Vegas. So I pick a weekend just for that. And I block those days off just so that he and I could continue to pour into each other. Each month we've done something that is just for us, because it can get taken over by work. And then when you're not working, you kind of feel guilty. So you want to spend that off time with the kids. Right. So I wanted to make sure that we have some time every month that we're just focused on he and I.
Yeah.
So Todd, what are you doing?
I'm going on a trip. I'm doing my thing. No, I just think it's taking that time, not feeling guilty, that, because you want to spend all your time with your kids when you do get the free time, but you have to take time for each other, because if not, men, we strong, but we not that strong. Emotionally, we get a little emotional. We need, especially I'm a Leo, so I need my stroking. I need to know that I'm the man, and so you have to take that time, and she needs it as well.
How did you make this work with the girls? Because a lot of families have to look at blending. And then when you have two girls, even though they're different in age, how did you do that?
Oh, I think that's the hardest, the older ones. Yeah. Because they get really sensitive. At times they feel like, the younger ones get more attention than they do.
Yeah, it was tough.
It was the adjustment of having two separate households. They both been raised as single children to be put together. And like I said, Riley is a lot more mature than her age. So although Kayla is older, she felt like her and Riley, when they have like a disagreement, she'll be feeling like Riley should know better. But it's like, you forget that she's much younger than you.
But I think I made a lot of mistakes. My daughter came from New York, came into a new household. I didn't really understand how much she had to transition into. I'm thinking, oh, you good now? You nice house, let's go. And she was really transitioning into this whole new world that I just didn't understand. I was like, why aren't you? And she just was trying to figure it out. And we've talked like since, it's all happened, and she's so much older, so much mature now. And now I really understand when she tells me like, Dad, it was hard. Like I was trying to keep up. I didn't know you guys were never home because y'all always busy. I'm used to my mom being at the house and you telling me, go, do your thing, because I'm such a go-getter and I wanted her to be that same way, but it was a transition period that I just didn't understand. Yeah. So I had to apologize and we had our little moment. But it's not easy.
And Riley also, she was used to, I guess I'm a lot more lenient. Todd is. Yeah. So if he'll say something, she's looking at him like, he ain't my daddy. Like that type of thing. You know what I mean? So it took a minute for them to both adjust. Yeah.
So how did you two get everybody together? Because it had to take the two of you for the sisters to become sisters.
I think it's, we do best when we take trips together and spend time with just us, with just the kids and us. And they are forced to really talk and spend time and do fun stuff together. Like if, we're at home, they can all go off into their rooms and do whatever they want to do. Get on their phones
and disappear.
Right, but when we are forced to all go out on that trip together and they're in the room together or we have activities planned together, that's when we really get to bond and have fun.
Yeah.
When we come back, Kandi and Todd get real about reality TV, how it has affected their parenting, and what their kids think about growing up in the spotlight. Then later, they have been together since the 2nd grade. How this 8-time Mr. Olympia and his wife have kept the spark alive, all while making history on the world stage. So many people know you both from reality television, and sometimes what you see on reality television gives people a perception that isn't real.
Yeah.
How do you handle that, particularly with your older children, where people will come up to them and say, well, I saw that on the show and I don't understand why. How do you keep them from becoming part of that madness sometimes?
Well, first off, everything we do on the show is real. Like, for real, like, you can see it on my face that this is really happening, you know? I'm not saying anybody else's story isn't real, but our stuff is real, and we really go through these moments, and I think that's why people connect to us, because we've been so transparent and we're willing to share exactly what's happening. Early on, my daughter would get mad because of things maybe her mom or her family might have said about me. So she would call me fussing like, yo, why they talking about you like that? I don't like that. But, you know, she gets it. We've been through those, you know, those moments. Now we're at a great place, so everybody's cool. But I think our daughters, they've been in it so long now that it's just part of our life.
Most of their lives have been on television, if you really think about it. Riley's, you know, when we started on the show, I think she was 6 years old, and she's 19 now. So she grew up on the show. And like I would say the only thing that's different is we may not go all the way in as far as calling them out on some of the things that they have done that wasn't on camera, just because we want to spare their feelings of what the fans have to say. Now they'll say whatever to, you know, us or how they feel in the moment, but we hold back a little bit because, you know, I know it's like kind of hard when fans judge children too. They don't care if it's a kid or, you know, they'll have things to say, you know, on social media that may hurt their feelings. So, you know, like, you know, let's just say one of the kids got in trouble for something and I want to say, well, if you hadn't did this, you know, I can't always say everything, you know, when it comes to my kids, because I don't feel like the world should be able to go in on my child. I don't care what they say about me, but, you know, when they say things about our children, that's what I don't like.
So I'm curious, when you all do have a disagreement, what is it usually about?
Business.
Disagreements about...
We disagree about business.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of relationship disagreements. It's mostly business.
Right. Like, I want to buy a new building or another
He always
building.
wants to have his own way. He always wants to have his way on everything. What I've learned...
I'm doing pretty good, though.
Oh, whatever. Like, as if I'm not great at the things that I do too.
That's
and he loves to say, it's not about you.
When I say I'm doing something, not like I'm not, it's like, no, it's my turn, like, relax.
Okay, so what I have learned is that I only try to really go back and forth if it's something that really bothers me. If it's something that I'm just like, I just let him have it.
So give one example of something that would really bother you that you pick at him on. He knows.
Which one?
Well, no, the point is, it could be a little thing that bothers her, that she blows up. It doesn't have to be big. It can be like...
You're leaving your drawers on the bathroom floor?
No. The remote. If you take the remote out the living room and it ends up in the kitchen and she goes in the living room, she's gonna lose it. Like,
I label, because I don't like
all the
things
remotes
to get lost out of their place. So every remote has like kitchen, bedroom, you know, family room. It has the label where it's supposed to be. I don't like for somebody to take it somewhere else because then it gets lost. I don't like it. Yes, I'm very much a person where I feel like big things don't happen too often, big bad things I'm saying, big bad things, because the person doesn't want to repeat something that is like a huge mistake because they felt like, oh my God, if I do that again, you know, everything is gonna fall apart. But little things that they don't find to be a big deal, they will keep doing it to you because they don't think it's a big deal, but it annoys me. And oh my God, it drives me insane.
So the remote in the toilet seat.
Oh my God, the
that.
toilet seat. I'm like, we've been together for 8 years and you still can't aim in the hole.
So
That is every woman.
she gets me on the toilet
complaint.
seat. I'm like, my bad.
So how are you going to train your son?
Well, he has his own bathroom, so we don't have to really deal with that right now. But definitely little things that I tell. Okay, another thing I hate is I hate when somebody leaves toothpaste, like when they brushing their teeth and let it drip in the sink and leave it sitting right there.
So what does she provide for you that you didn't have?
Family. Like really, it was just me and my mom growing up. I was what's that, a latchkey kid? You know, you had the keys, you was like 6, 7, 8, whatever, coming home, you make yourself a little something till your mom gets home, she calls, she checks on you every hour, whatever, or the neighbor checks on you. So I really didn't have I had a family as far as my community, my neighbors, but it was just really me and my mom. And that was one of my deciding factors when it was like, do I want to be with her? One was she asked me to get on my knees and pray with her. And the other one was how much she loved and cared about her family.
And what does he bring to you?
Oh, the best teammate in the world. What I mean by that is kind of like the lyric I always say that Neo wrote is like, I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we're together. Like that lyric that he wrote, I mean, I'm a songwriter, so stuff like that stands out to me. But that lyric, I always, before I met Todd, I was like, I feel like I'm doing good, but if I just met that right person, like we'll conquer the world together. And I feel like I found my person.
8-time Mr. Olympia bodybuilder Lee Haney says he found the love of his life in the 2nd grade in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Lee and Shirley Haney have been married 40 years this May. I went one-on-one with them at their home in Fayetteville, Georgia.
You know what? Shirley was, I fell in love with her in the 2nd grade. I sure did. She had this little bang on her head, little pretty little white bunny rabbit teeth. When I saw that girl, I said, oh my goodness. I thought she was the cutest thing in the world, even at that age. Sure did. So it's like, oh no, this is how, I know what my heart was saying. I don't know what hers was saying, but you know.
So Shirley, what was your heart saying in the 2nd grade?
I mean, you know, 2nd grade, yeah, it was puppy love, they say, puppy love. But it was great, but we grew up in together, yeah, in Spartanburg, in the same neighborhood. There was 6 of us, 3 brothers and 2 sisters for me. And with you, 1 brother and 2 sisters. So we all grew up in the same neighborhood, played
her mom
together.
was like the whole neighborhood mom. So we would go over their house and play basketball.
Everybody.
Shirley was one of the tomboys, you know, so we did everything together, you know, and her mom would cook and give snacks to the whole neighborhood. But when she would say stop or go home, we knew to stop and to go home. You know, she didn't take any mess.
No.
He remembers their first serious date.
My uncle allowed us to go to the movie with them, you know, my aunt and uncle. And so Shirley's mom allowed her to go to the movie with us. So that was our first date.
And guess what was the name of the movie?
What was the movie?
Let's do it
again. And you know,
Sit your
Carolyn
foot
came
there.
and she allowed me to hold her hand. Oh my Lord.
Yes.
I thought I was gonna go to heaven with that one.
Up next, how getting sidelined on the football field led to a history-making bodybuilding career that took Lee around the world.
Lee and Shirley developed their friendship over sports.
And we did a lot of sports in school together. And
Because you were an athlete too.
No, Shirley was an incredible athlete.
volleyball, cheerleading, I did it all.
She was the president of the sports club. Guess who was the vice president? Me. She outdid me in that, you know?
Yes.
So when you decided, and the whole story about you getting into weightlifting is a story in itself.
Yes,
You were a football player,
that's right. Yeah.
but
But, you know, I wanted to be Jim Brown growing up, you know. Jim Brown, you know, I love Jim Brown. And so I started weight training in order to, you know, be better in the sport of football. And during my junior year in high school, I ended up breaking my ankle after the second game. Yes. So I went back into the weight room, rehabbing, gotten stronger. I think I went in weighing probably 150 something pounds, came out weighing about 170, and ready for the next year coming up, senior year, 5th game. I broke this leg. And so here I am again, starting all over. I went in the weight room weighing then about 175, 180, came out weighing 217 pounds. So my body just took naturally to weight training. And after that, I said, well, you know, maybe I need to try bodybuilding. And that's sort of how it began, because the coach said, get out there and break a leg. That's exactly what I do for a break a leg. So apparently the cause for me was bodybuilding.
But what I found out about you, Lee, that surprised me is that you knew even as a 6-year-old that you wanted to be Samson or Hercules.
I sure did. I knew it from an early age that I wanted to be that, you know, that superhero that I saw in TVs and read about in the Bible. And I never will forget this. One day, me and my brother, because my brother was about 3 years older than me, was hanging out in the backyard, and my dad had this beautiful baby blue Fairlane Ford. And something said to me, you are strong enough to pick this boulder up and throw it over that car. Yes. I picked the boulder up, went to the back of the car, and I visualized that boulder going to the other side, because I am Samson and Hercules. At least that's what I had in my mind. My brother looked at me and said, you better not do that. And of course, you know, who listens to the older brother? So I took a few steps back and I launched the boulder into the air. And boom, it landed in the back glass of my dad's car. You could imagine. And I'm like, why didn't it go over? After all, I am Hercules and Samson. It didn't go over. My dad came to the back door when he heard this crash and said, who did it? And you can imagine when you talk about genetics, right? My dad has a neck like Lee Haney, big wide shoulders, small waist, muscle popping everywhere. And he said, who did it? I said, Daddy, he did. And oh my goodness, it was a terrible sight to see. My brother running down through the woods and my dad chasing him. But listen, I wasn't gonna tell him the truth. Let him get killed, not me. He had to be a sacrifice so that I could live and grow up and become Mr. Olivia. But my dad looked at me, you know, he looked at my brother. Said, nah, it couldn't have been him. It had to be you. So he later found out it was me, because all of a sudden I became this muscular monster. But my brother beat me up. He got me back every time he thought about it, he got me back.
Coming up, how Lee's first national title would not have happened without Shirley by his side. And later, I'll introduce you to a couple making headlines and history with their newspaper business.
Lee started competing in bodybuilding contests, wearing briefs from Kmart. He couldn't afford competition briefs. He also couldn't afford to compete on the national level until Shirley jumped in with help.
Yes, a matter of fact, when I was working at a grocery store at that time, you know, and training and so forth. I mean, you only had so much money, you know. So my entry fee had to be paid. Then the other thing, my battery had died in my car. And so I'm like, okay, I don't have any more money. And I was training for the Teenage America at the time, which I was 19. I was 19, training for the Teenage America. And Shirley worked at the library as a page. So she got paid only once a month. And Shirley offered to take care of my entry fee and help me buy a battery to go in my car. And so I went on to the Teenage America, beat over 79 teenagers from all over the United States and became Mr. Teenage America. And I was so indebted to her for doing it. But it was blood money. I've been paying her ever since. You remember, you owe me, you know.
How could you, as a young woman, make that decision in a career where you don't see many people who look like your husband, not many Black men in that profession at that time?
Well, I guess we, like I said, I was part of being an athlete myself, and I enjoyed being an athlete. And then with Mr. Haney, me working out with him, and I mean, we just did so much together even when we was younger. So, I mean, I just like, let's go, let's do it. And I was there to support him all the way.
Now, I saw a picture of you where you competed.
Yes. One time, Monica, one time.
I think the diet got to Shirley.
I know it one time, the diet, and then first I had to shave my leg and go through all of that. And I'm like, and I placed third in the show. And,
Sure did. She
but it was
did
great.
great.
It was fun. But I knew that was not for me. I said, no, I'm
Lee,
going to
did you
support
want her to
him.
continue?
Well, you know what? I thought she did great, incredible physique. I mean, just great naturally because she was an athlete. But I never pushed Shirley to compete. You know, she wanted to try it, and so I was there to back her up. You know, I'm glad that she backed me up.
Yeah.
Because she's always been there to help me, to encourage me. At times, she was my training partner. You know, we lived in California. You know, she was my training partner there and, you know, took very good care of me. And, you know, so that's where she's been. And I've been careful to say, okay, baby, now, you've been with me all of these years and you've supported me. Now, listen, I don't want at the end of the day for you to say, well, I sacrificed everything for you and now what do I have to look forward to in my own dreams? So I made it clear. I said, I do not want it to be at the end of the day when you've given everything to me and I haven't given back. So anything you want to do, anything you want to be, I'm going to support you. All you got to do is tell me. But she chose to support me.
But after 5 years of traveling, Shirley said she wanted children. Joshua is now 35 and Olympia is 32. Competing became a family affair. Lee won 8 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles from 1984 to 1991, the first Black person to do that. Later, his record was tied by Ronnie Coleman.
And I tease him too, because see, I won 8 Mr. Olympias and retired at the age of 31. And my friend Ronnie Coleman didn't win his first one until he was 35. So I said, Ronnie, what took you so long? You finally figured it out. Yes. And we're great friends. We laugh, you know. I love Ronnie.
You didn't want to go for 9?
Oh, no. I really didn't want to do 8. Let me tell you what happened with that.
That's right.
I had a conversation with Shirley after 7th. I said, well, baby, what do you think? You think I should, 7 is a record in itself, so maybe I should just retire now. She looked at me and said, what are you talking about? You gotta do 8. That ain't nothing to talk about. What's the matter with you? I felt almost belittled because I was having that discussion. But Shirley being an athlete, let's go get it. And I went and got it.
That is still, when you think about it, when people talk about bodybuilding, they usually think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you left him in the dust.
Yep, Arnold had to call me uncle. We were great friends, and Arnold, he admittedly said, if anyone deserved to break that record, it's Lee Haney. So we've been great friends over the years.
You are revered in the world of bodybuilding, you know that.
Yes, and it's, me and Shirley, it's been me and Shirley. We've tried to represent family. I was first Mr. Olympia to have children while I competed. That was unique, that was different. A father, doing business, all of those things. So we've tried to make an impact, for the good. And as a result of that, a lot of the guys competing now, they're married with wives and kids. And so we really feel that we've helped change the culture and the thoughts, because it was thought that, well, you can't compete as an athlete and be your very best and then tend to family matters. I said, no, yes, you can. If anything, it put even more fire up under me because I had to buy diapers and worry about education for it. And nobody was going to take my titles because I had a job to do, and a responsibility.
Well, talking about that job. So Shirley, were you the one to put the oil on it?
Sometimes. It was so greasy.
Why do bodybuilders have to put all that oil on?
Well, on the stage, when the light reflects, it shows all of the definition when you have the oil on. So it makes it easier to see, whereby if the skin was dry and ash looking, particularly for an African-American guy, then you wouldn't see the definition as much. And even for a guy who has real lighter skin, you have to tan down in order to see the muscles better.
So you mean black people were getting in tanning beds?
Oh yeah, I did. Matter of fact, I got burnt. I didn't know I could get burnt, but I got burnt in the tanning bed before, But yes, it's part of it because you want to even out the skin tone.
Which Mr. Olympia stood out to you?
Well, I would say there was two Mr. Olympias that stood out.
Okay.
The first one, when a kid from a small town grew up to, I'm on the same stage with guys that I grew up watching, and all of a sudden, my hands are raised in victory to be Mr. Olympia, representing 150 different countries from around the world.
Wow.
That's absolutely incredible. To win a Mr. Olympia is a miracle in itself. There was the Teenage America I won. Well, the Teenage America, the Junior Mr. America, the Mr. America, the Mr. Universe, and then to win the Mr. Olympia, that's heavy. So that first one was very important. That was in 1983.
Yeah.
Then the last one, when I was on the stage in 1981 with my beautiful wife, Shirley, and Josh in one arm and Olympian in the other arm. For them, that was icing on the cake. So that was it. That was it. Those are the two most important deals, the first and the last.
From bodybuilding to building an empire. Next, how his days of competing have made him a success in the business world.
It was a natural transition for Lee to go from competing on stage to competing in business with the Lee Haney Games and other enterprises.
Well, when you've been the best in the world in this sport and people want to hear what you got to say, and then I have an organization called the International Association of Fitness Science, which I certify people who want to become personal trainers. So I make sure that they are trained properly, so they'll know how to compete or they'll know how to train other people, whether it's bodybuilding science or whether it's the general population. Then we have, one certification, ultimate bodybuilding. The other one is functional training for regular people. Then we have also the Ministry of Fitness, which is designated for those who want to train people within a church or a synagogue or other institutions of that type. So it's me being me, and that's what I do. So I've expanded from the stage now to creating businesses that speaks to my gifts. The certification, the Lee Haney Games, the Lee Haney Nutrition Support System, Haney's Harvest House, the mentoring program, all of those different things that I do and who I am.
What are you proudest of about your husband?
Oh, wow. I can say a lot. Good husband, he's my king. And
She don't call me
father.
that when I'm on the road.
Father.
When she miss me, she'll
Great
say
father. Great papa. Businessman. I mean, a man of God. I mean, I'm just overall package. I'm very.
What did he bring to your life?
A lot of happiness. A lot of happiness and joy. I mean, the world, you know.
You still
complete
look at him
package.
like you were teenagers.
That's my buddy. That's my buddy. That's my buddy. Yeah.
Lee, what did Shirley bring to you?
Well, it's so many things. So many things she is, you know. Because, you know, the word of God says the man that finds a wife finds a good thing and finds favor. So she is my good thing. And then the other thing is when I pray at night, I hold her hand, we're holding hands together. We ask God's wisdom upon both of us. You know, she hear me say, Lord, help me to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be. Because I know in doing that, I'm going to love her as God intended me to love his daughter.
You two have managed to make a wonderful life for yourself coming from Spartanburg.
Yeah, it's amazing coming from a little town and two kids growing up in at humble beginnings and seeing the whole world. We often just sit down and talk and laugh about it and just amazed.
A lot of interesting people live in Metro Atlanta and have contributed to Black history. And while one-on-one is usually about people whose names you know, now it's time to meet someone you need to know. Meet philanthropists and publishers Dr. Earl and Carolyn Glenn. How did you two meet?
His ex-wife introduced us.
My ex-wife was a beautician. And I walked in one day. We were separated at the time. And when I saw her, I asked her, who is that? I said, you got to introduce me to her. And that's how we met.
How did you feel your hairdresser giving you her ex-husband?
I was married at the time, but just 2 years later, I met him at an NAACP banquet, and I was getting a divorce. And that's really when we met.
What about him said to you, he's the one?
At that moment?
No.
Oh, just down the road. His love and his care and his generosity and his kindness, always willing to help someone else. He comes from a family that just has that kind of history of doing for others.
And what about her?
Like I said, the first time I saw her in the chair, that was it for me.
But what about Carolyn keeps you in love with her?
You know, I believe this, based on my mother and father. I came from a very loving family. We were, in fact, when my mother and father passed, there was no pain associated with it. I didn't grieve as people grieve. There was just no pain because there was so much love that we had with each other. And she just fit the bill. 100%.
What is the thing that he does that gets on your nerves?
Ooh, the list is long.
Talking.
He talks. And I have to listen because I never want to cut off the communication that we have. So I just, when I'm busy, when I'm, just my head is full of things, I just have to stop and listen because I never want that to be cut off. I want us to always communicate.
So, Dr. Glenn, what does Miss Carolyn do that gets on your last nerve?
I'm late.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the only one.
The Champion is the most awarded weekly newspaper in Georgia, but it's their work helping the children that brings the Glenns the most joy. That's next on One on One.
The Champion newspaper is nestled into a building on East College Avenue in Decatur. Carolyn Glenn is a former real estate broker and educator. Now she is a publisher, thanks to her husband.
When I moved here, I was a dentist at the time. I'm retired now. And there were 250,000 African Americans who had just moved in to DeKalb County. And it was the second most affluent African American community in the United States at that time, behind Prince George's County. But we didn't know each other. 250,000 people. That would be one of within the 10 most largest cities, if you designated a city, in Georgia. No hospital. We didn't know each other. We didn't know where resources were. So the idea came from a friend of mine who started a newspaper in my hometown. And I said, we need to get to know each other. I need to know who the resources are. So we decided to start a newspaper from scratch. And we started in 91. In that year, 70 plus newspapers folded when we started.
And it provided a platform for African Americans in DeKalb County to get to know one another. People could just come to DeKalb and put their hat in the race for an office, and we didn't know who they were. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to get to know one another. We had important people in DeKalb. We had Tuskegee Airmen. We had the man who had done a stamp for the UN. We had presidential security people. We had entertainers all coming through his office, and we didn't know one another.
Right.
So how did you pick the name The Champion?
Oh, that's him again.
It came from Muhammad Ali. When people have to say the newspaper, they must say The Champion.
When every other newspaper refer to us, they must say The Champion.
Now, this newspaper has also made history. I think it's won, you explained it to me, the most awards?
We are the most awarded weekly newspaper in the state of Georgia, per the Georgia Press Association.
Right.
That's impressive.
I just instructed my CEO when we were in the other building, we had these first place awards plastered. We have about 150 of them or more. And we had them plastered all over the wall. So I just told him today when I walked in, I want to bring those out of storage and put all of them on our wall. First place awards.
Mm-hmm.
How does the community react to what you do?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. We're a small newspaper, community newspaper starting out, but once we won the legal organ status back in 97, and by the way, we worked from 91 to 97, in his dental office, the other side of the building, like an incubator. We never got paid, never had a paycheck for 7 years. And once we gained that status as legal organ, we were able to do a lot of things, but we were thrust into having to report on the entire county. Every county has to have an official newspaper in order to print the legal notices. We're the only African American owned newspaper in the state of Georgia with that designation.
That's Black history.
It is. And we don't know of any in the country.
Right. Our lawyers told us that they couldn't find any African American owned newspapers across this country with a designation of this magnitude.
Right.
And while they are proud of that, it is what they do for children here and in Jamaica through their foundation that fulfills them. The nonprofit provided chess and coding lessons at youth centers in Metro Atlanta before COVID. They continue to fund a school in Jamaica, providing uniforms, shoes, barrels of food, paraprofessional teachers, and home-based sewing businesses for parents.
There's so much to do. And we're just a little drop in the bucket. And we just hope that other people would reach out and try to help people who are homeless, help people who are downtrodden, help elevate children, that more people would just do that. I told them when
One on your tombstone.
On my tombstone, God knows I tried. So.
I have always said that when you see a problem, you see a situation where God's children need help, if you have the time, the talent, and the resources, you are mandated to do whatever you can to address that problem. So if I had a legacy, it would be that she tried to do that when she saw there were people in need.
Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll join me next month for an all-new episode of Monica Pearson One-on-One.